So, real funny story about Tutankhamun over here. I was explaining the concept of FGO to my stepdad. It just came up in normal conversation. He's like, "Oh, what are you playing on your phone?" I was explaining the concept of the game, and he was like, "Oh, so you guys have a bunch of like different pharaohs?" I'm like, "Yeah, we have Ozymandias, who's like Ramesses. We got Cleopatra." I was explaining Nitocris, and then he's like, "Oh, so you guys have King Tut, right? You guys have him. He's like one of the most well-known pharaohs." And I was like, it's really weird. We don't have King Tut in the game yet. That was like 3 days ago. And then voila, King Tut, who, to the surprise of everybody, drops over here on JP. I think we were all, myself included, just expecting that we were going to get Icarus, right? It really seemed like, I don't know why we're all just settled on getting Icarus, but it's King Tut. So we're just gonna go over the details and then I'm gonna go to bed. I didn't end up actually streaming my reaction because I ended up getting really tired. So I'm gonna try to just get this video out there for you guys, give you guys a live response to me just kind of looking at his kit and everything. But he is already looking insanely thick, which is very ironic because of how small this guy is. But 14,000 base HP. I'm expecting this guy to not be a looper. It's looking like he's probably going to be some kind of CQ oriented servant, probably going to be arts, just looking at the triple arts deck. And we don't have his final ascension art, so I'm assuming later on into the event we're gonna get like a proper King Tut type servant. I'm assuming he's gonna look super dope and everything. Like right now it's like, oh, it's the little baby servant, but then third ascension he's gonna be all yoked and jacked and all that good stuff. So expect to see that moving forward whenever we get that in like a week from now. Starting off with the first skill over here, we have a 20% battery for the entire party. That is already very good to start off with. 6-turn cooldown is also nice, giving the entire party 20% NP damage. And then an on guts effect that bombs 30 stars, and that will all. Excuse me, hold. Okay, no, that's the okay. I thought no, he does have okay. He has 2 triggers. I thought this was another trigger that he had on top of that. So he just bombs 30 stars whenever his guts is triggered, but then whenever he actually goes down, he will further send another 30 stars, and that's it. Okay. I say that's it as if that's not good, but this is both going to be very strong going into multi-core setups. That's where you have 2 different DPSs, which I'm sure a lot of you on NA are getting very familiar with this most recent 90++ node, and having the ability for one of your DPSs to have a 20% battery while also having a 20% NP damage up for the party, that's not nothing. That can be very good. Then moving into CQ oriented content, the fact that he's going to be able to give you 30 stars twice on presumably what's going to be an art servant, that's not bad. Off rip, this is a very, very strong skill. Moving into skill 2, it's going to be, okay, yep, this is definitely going to be an art servant. 30% arts buff for 3 turns, on attack buff that gives curse, and has a 30% battery. So this is one of those servants that you could probably double up. You could probably do a double Tut setup, kind of like how you can do double Taigong, or you can do double Tetskalipoka, right? Because they not only give battery to themselves, but they give battery to the entire party. So functionally has a 50% battery. I'm assuming he's going to have a curse power mod on his NP, but even if he doesn't, you could pair him with anybody that does have curse power mod in your multi-core setup, and any of his face cards would be able to set that up. So already not too bad, battery for the party, battery for self. This is just already looking like a very strong servant. Being able to set this stuff up is also just very, very nice. And again, remember, he's giving the NP damage to the party, so if you are going to be using Oberon and you have someone that, say, doesn't have native NP damage, I don't know, somebody like Morgan, comes to mind, an Arjuna Altar, if you want to use them to kind of like knock out a final wave if they're, I don't know, just happen to be particularly high invested, getting this extra NP damage would be really nice in combination with Oberon's 3rd skill and, just giving you that extra, maximization of the 3rd skill and, really overclocking your NP damage. But hey, what do I know? Moving into the 3rd skill, not named. Fantastic. Love to see that. It's probably going to get revealed whenever we get the 3rd ascension. So it's going to give himself a guts. It doesn't say if it can stack with other guts, but I guess you do actually want him to go down. A 5k guts is not nothing. That is an insanely high guts, given that he's going to have about 15,000 HP because you are probably just going to use your normal foes on this guy. So getting basically a third of his HP back when guts is procced, very good. Gives himself an additional 30% battery. So he has an 80% battery total. And then he's debuff immune for 3 turns. These are very low skill cooldowns. I wonder how good this guy's going to be as a solo server. Let me just check some random passives that he has. So about a 20% chance to be immune to any like debuffs that come his way on top of the third skill. 10% crit damage is not bad. Okay, so so he has a 30% buff to land the curse. So you're pretty much going to be guaranteeing like slapping this debuff on somebody unless they have particularly high immunities or, you know, debuff resistance, which some bosses do have. So that is something to be aware of. Let's see what the NP is, because the NP could be a support NP, and you know, he might not even be a farmer at all, but let's just check. But that would be really interesting. If he was a support archer, that would be really neat. Okay, no, he is single target, 150% power mod against demonic. So that's flat. The overcharge is NP damage. That's not nothing, considering that you could use this guy with, say, Lady Avalon, who on her charisma does give you overcharge, so you could actually just have 25%. Doesn't stack, which is a little unfortunate. Does not have... Ooh, okay. So he's kind of just a curse Andy that does damage over time with the, you know, bonus evil curse over here. That's kind of... Well, I guess it's not an evil curse, it just raises the effectiveness of the curse damage, which I guess you could just think of it as evil curse. They're kind of the same thing anyway. And then death chance. This is not nothing. So, okay, let me just say this off rip. If you need to use him in, say, a 1-1-1 node, which I would expect because he is the main servant, the main 90++ node for this event is probably going to feature either a large demonic enemy as the first or last enemy in the node, or it's just going to be a 1-1-1 featuring Saber so you can farm this. I definitely don't think it's going to be Berserkers because this is not very high NP gain. Alright, I had to cut the half of that video because it turns out I didn't read this properly. It's a 500% chance for him to actually insta-kill himself, which may seem really bad on paper, and I kind of had to cut the original half of this video because I was going on about like potentially him being a survivability servant, a really good, you know, with, you know, Castoria and Lady Avalon, but realistically, he's kind of an additional plug suit. He's like a single target, a Roch, if you want to think of him like that, where he's a guy that will take himself out. He's also kind of what people have been wanting for somebody like Mandricardo, where you could make his second skill, you know, usable whenever, so you could kind of let him be an extra plug suit, and I think this guy is a bit stronger than I was originally rating him, because now that I realize what this is a guy that functionally has 100% battery, because they just announced again that you can change your append skills whenever you want, so you can always swap to monoloading. That starts him with 20% battery. He has 80% between all three of his skills. You could have this guy fire his NP in, say, a 90++ node, and then immediately take himself out. He takes out the big demonic enemy, and it functionally gives you another plug suit. Now, this does have the Summer Chloe problem, where you're going to be getting into team cost. That might be a little rough, but it does make this guy very, very strong. That's not his fault that FGO has not like raised team costs. As a servant, this is a very strong ability to have. And if you are willing to kind of negotiate your team costs, maybe you don't run all 5-star CE setups, you know, maybe you go for like a 1-star CE for like the bronze drop or something along those lines, which really is only relevant going into lottos, right? The lottos, you want to have as many of the drop CEs as you possibly can. But if you're willing to go with that 1-star CE, or not the 1-star, but the 3-star CE setup, this guy I think could be very, very strong. A guy that can be a single target that functionally kind of has the Melusine ability of being able to insta-fire his NP, or like even the Archetype Earth ability, is super strong when he's also taking himself out. The only thing is, I wish he maybe had, and this probably would have been a little too broken, I wish he had a more generic power mod for something like this. So like if he was Earth or Man, can you imagine how disgusting this would have been? You know, just anytime you open up and there's some like big bungus enemy that you could just take out with this guy's NP plug suit out, and then you still have your original plug suit available, that's really, really strong. But this will still be good moving into the future, because they love throwing one large enemy at the very beginning of nodes for 90++, because it really trips up stuff like Buster, because Buster, they like to loop their skills back with Koya and Sky as batteries. You know, they also like to stack and build up, so they can like really start hitting hard on turns 2 and 3, but they kind of can have a bit of a shortcoming on the first node. But this will be really good for arts, because you don't have that problem. You'll have this guy who could just chunk that enemy, and then your AoE servant or your other single target will be able to beat up the rest of the node. I think this guy is very, very strong. Again, I don't think he's a must summon, particularly because I'm holding out for next year on my JP account, my main JP at least. On my side JP, I will definitely be summoning for this guy because I want to use him in team comps. He seems very, very fun. I mean, even going into challenge quest, having a free plug suit to be able to get into a Tamamo, to be able to get into your other Castoria, a Lady Avalon, a Jufu, a Waver, anybody is going to be very good. I imagine min-turn guys will really like this as well because it's a guarantee into another one of your supports that just makes your min-turning that much easier. But I'm really just kind of thinking about the year 10 thing for FGO and how I don't really think any gacha game has made it to year 10, and FGO I think is going to be the first, if not one of the first, to make it that far without having to ever end service. So I'm expecting them to go big or go home, starting with next year, like with the new year for next year, right? And then I think like anniversary stuff is going to be crazy. So I'm kind of trying to hodl my Saint Quartz over on the JP side of things. Only if they bring back like Koyan Sky or Oberon, I think that's when I might crack under pressure to get them because they're just so good. What's the likelihood of them releasing a support that's on that level? But this guy is very, very strong. I think he's very good. If you do go summon for him, I can't blame you. Like my main JP account that is pretty much only invested into arts. The only other support I really have is Merlin for Buster and Caster Scotty for Quicks. You know, they're not super real on that account. This guy is very tempting as an arts guy that could just be a single target, drop anybody, give support, 20% battery. I don't know. It's going to be very tempting to not. Like, I'll have to see what the final ascension looks like. If he's like a big, burly, like muscular dude, I'll definitely take him. Like, I might go. I might go for this guy. If he's like some cool Giga Chad looking guy, like Ozzy or something, I'll go for him. But let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments down below, and I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. You guys have yourselves a nice rest of your day. Peace. Late, guys. I'm going to bed.